There you go.
Anastos is here in the world.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I don't know what else to tell you other than what we talked about on the weekend. Friday's performance was poor and disappointing, and probably more of an issue to me was what I consider the root of the performance, which is I just think we've allowed frustration to fester a little bit over a number of things. Probably most our inability to score with consistency and produce the kind of results we're looking for, and I think it got to us. And the first period I thought we started pretty good, 5-on-5, and yet gave up 3 really easy goals, just easy goals. And I think that compounded and really built some frustration amongst our team, and we didn't handle it very well, and it was downhill from there. And Minnesota, a couple of people told me, affiliated with their team, may have played one of their best, if not their best game of the season, so that didn't make it any easier, but I think we contributed to that. The next night, I really liked how we refocused, how we just came out and did all the things that we practiced and focused on, and I thought performed probably our best 65 minutes of the season, and obviously didn't quite get over the hump to win in overtime, but felt pretty good to win the shootout. So we moved forward, gave the guys yesterday off, we'll practice today, have really kind of a little bit of a kind of get back into it skate. A lot of guys have exams tomorrow. I'm going to give tomorrow as an optional day, and then we'll practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday, play Sunday, and then guys can go home. So that's the game plan.
Hey Tom, to have 2 games like that back to back, doesn't that kind of show the players the difference between ordinary and excellent? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not positive what you mean.
Well, maybe I'm giving them too much credit for being ordinary, but to play that poorly on Friday and then kind of buy in Saturday, to see 2 contrasting games like that, does that show them how much effort it takes to play at that level?
Well, that's what we talked about immediately after the game. I talked about the standard that was set today should be an expectation for our team, because we just showed ourselves the level we're capable of playing. And when you statistically, other than having more goals through overtime than the other team, statistically we played one of our best games. We moved the puck, we controlled the puck, we possessed the puck, we had a lot of quality scoring chances, we held them down. Now at the same time we made some mistakes. Our goaltender made some timely stops and a huge stop in overtime. So I think the answer to your question is, Fred, yes. I think there was an obvious contrast in our performance, and at the same time, I talked to some guys individually. Why is it that your performance is at this level tonight and maybe hasn't been consistently? We've got to find that, and we need to find that throughout our team. So that's the challenge. I do think that we kind of let the air out of things on Friday pregame and just said, go play the game. Just go play the game. Don't focus on the result. Don't worry about making mistakes. Go play hard. And everybody in that locker room wants to win. Everybody comes here working hard, trying to win. It's frustrating when you lose as many 1-goal games as we've had in situations where we haven't scored with the consistency we want to. And yet that day, or that night, our quality of play really kind of came together, and I think it sets a standard that everybody can see, and to your point, they can see the contrast between the 2 nights, and everybody in that locker room knows what it took, to play as well as we did that night. So I think that should be a very good platform for us to take the next step.
I just want to follow up. I'm sure Friday was a long night for you. Did you have some doubts that they could do that, or did you start wondering, where are we?
I, like everybody else amongst our team, was feeling pretty down and disappointed in what we saw Friday. That was not a good effort. I was a bit disturbed by some of the frustration level that I saw within our team, and I felt that had to be addressed immediately. And I think that was maybe the most significant improvement the next night, which then produced, you know, a better performance. And that's where we have to be moving forward. So sometimes things fester over a period of time, and especially when you're not having the level of success that you hope to. And you know, to the players' credit, you know, they buckled down, and I thought had a great performance or a real good performance anyway on Saturday night. And yeah, I was as frustrated as probably anybody. But what we spent time about is how you manage that, how you deal with it, because it's going to happen to you. It happens to you within games, and you can't go, you know, off on your own and do your own thing. You got to make sure you work within the context of the team and that you're contributing to the locker room, not sucking energy from the locker room. And we have some of that. We had some of that going, and that's not acceptable.
Is that going to be your new game message now? Just go play the game?
I don't know that it'll be because it's not a new message. It's a message we've talked about for quite some time, really. But there's so many different things that can happen during the course of the game. You got all these players. There's some guys in the lineup, some guys out of the lineup, guys finding their roles. You know, guys maybe not performing or having the success that they're hoping to have. And yet the goal every game is to win the game, and all of these other factions have to come together and put individual, I guess, individual agendas aside to focus on the team agenda. Your individual agenda should be fit within the team structure. And I think for the most part in my time here, that has happened with consistency. I thought we got away from that a little bit Friday night. And the Saturday performance, the Saturday focus, the Saturday togetherness. I saw Mike Ferrantino's comment to somebody after the game, is that, you know, it demonstrates when everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction, you know, to the level you can perform to. And it's easy to say that. It's way harder to make it all happen. And we need everybody on this team, for us to play at a high level, we need everybody going in whatever their respective roles are. Whether they love the role, hate the role, want to improve their role, they need to embrace their role and do what they can to help the team perform at a high level, while at the same time trying to improve their role, you know, if they want it to be different than it is. And I thought we did a good job on that Friday, and I think it's a good refresher, because it's not something that's new that we talk about. We talk about those kinds of things all the time. But when you see it so visibly in your game, I think it can be more powerful in grabbing your attention.
Talking about the penalty kill over the weekend, are you concerned at all about it moving forward? Because before last weekend, it was one of the strengths of the team, to be honest. And then they went, I think they had maybe 4 or 5 power play goals on the weekend. Are you concerned about it at all, or?
I think we'll rebound. I'm confident we'll rebound. I think we, the way I'm going to approach it is we got punched right in the mouth, and you know, we got to take our licking and figure out what it's going to take to get back to where we were. I'll give them lots of credit. They have a very good power play. It's the best we've seen in probably my 4 years here so far. At the same time, we don't accept our level of performance. We've got to be way better than that. And so, but we have a good group that are killing penalties. I know everybody's going to be feeling the same way that I do and our coaching staff does. And so we'll get back at it and get that thing back to where it needs to be.
And we've talked about this a couple times so far this season, but when you have a performance like they did on Saturday, it continually raises the bar. Same thing last year. When these guys get into their long break here in the next 2 weeks after Sunday, what do they have to do? What is the biggest thing, the biggest challenge to put that effort together consistently 3-4 games in a row?
I believe it's a mindset, because it's, you know, it's been different things in different games this season and losing efforts. It'd be a big fatal mistake, you know, on a turnover that results in a goal. It could be, you know, our power play was moving the puck, scored a goal, our penalty kill gave up. It could be, you know, the goaltending wasn't as strong that night as it has been. There hasn't been one consistent thing. There's been something different. And what we need to do is, and again, this is something we talk about, we need everybody going every time we play. we don't have a big margin for error, so we can't have two lines going and one line having a bad night. We gotta have everybody going. And I thought for the most part, that's what we had on Saturday. So going into the break, it'll be hopefully a bit of a physical and mental refresher, if you will. Guys will have to keep in shape, but mentally have to stay dialed in to what we're trying to accomplish. And you know, what did it take for Brent Darnell to have the game that he had? He was a factor in that game. Now, if you watched a week before, he wasn't a factor in the game, and we want him to play. We want him to be in the lineup. He's a senior. So what were the differences? We have to find what that difference is, so we get that performance with a much greater consistency. You know, and I think he wants that. But that's the magic, figuring out what it takes to get that. Same thing with Tanner. You know, I didn't think Tanner's game was very strong on Friday night. I considered taking him back out of the lineup. Decided not going to stay with him, give him another opportunity. I thought he was a factor in the game on Saturday, you know. So maybe that'll help him build a little confidence. But the commitment, I'm just using those two guys as example. There are others, but the commitment it takes to make sure you're ready, you're doing all the things all week long, not on game time, not at game day. You can't turn the switch on. You got to make sure you're getting your schoolwork done, you're getting your rest, you're coming to practice every day mentally ready, not just physically ready, but mentally ready to push yourself and your teammates to get better. And that's part of the maturation process of really what we're going through as a group. And the sooner we can get there, the sooner we'll get better results. And sometimes it's been frustrating not getting everybody there quick enough.
One guy who seems to be playing with a lot of buzz and offensive force is Mackenzie McEachran. What is he doing specifically, Tom, that you given him more ice time last week and that he's become a force offensively on this East game?
He's taken an approach in his play to make things happen. So he's making his share of mistakes in games, and yet because he's playing so aggressively, oftentimes he's getting away with them, or something's covering up for him over time for the most part. And that's what we talked to our team about in general. Say, hey, go make things happen. Play hard, make things happen. The game can be forgiving, Sometimes mistakes are going to cost you, but generally speaking, don't be worried about making mistakes. Go make things happen. And I think if I were to summarize his play, that's how it's been. He's pushing the pace. He's jumping on loose pucks. He's strong one-on-one. He's going to the dirty areas. He's strong along the boards. He's finishing checks when he can. He's using his reach. All those little things kind of add up, And then you look at the end of the night and you look at the full body of work and you say, pretty impactful game, And he happened to score, which happened to be a critical game.
Right.
So when you get yourself so engrossed in the game, good things are ultimately going to happen. And that's what we need. We need that to evolve deeper and deeper into our roster to have success.
I mean, he's a forward you need to really, one forward you need to be a force offensively, be a go-to guy.
We do. We want his game to continue to evolve. He's got to work on little areas of his game that will, help enhance his overall game. But his game continues to grow, which has been a real positive. And, so far, whatever line he's played with, he's brought a lot of energy. He's brought some physicality. He's brought some offensive dynamics, whether it's, just getting pucks to the net or creating offense through his energy and forechecking. Or through playmaking. So, his game continues to evolve. We need it to keep rising, and I think it will. But hopefully it's contagious too and affects other guys.
Not to drop names, but Scotty Bowman used to be driven nuts by retaliatory penalties. He benched guys for that because he thought it was a lack of discipline. You sure of that, and is that an issue?
It was Friday night. Friday night. I didn't dress JT Saturday because of lack of discipline.
Really?
Yep. I mean, his response, late, and the game was in control by Minnesota at that time, but it's not acceptable. Sometimes you're gonna make mistakes and take penalties, but retaliatory penalties are not good penalties, and they show a lack of discipline. And so, yeah, that's not acceptable.
You talked about the game against Minnesota raising the bar for your team and how they came out and played. I mean, Mike Ferrantino came out after the game and said that's what's going to take for everyone to pull in that direction. Do you sense that now, after this performance, the team is kind of buying into that? Do you notice a difference in the mentality of the team?
Well, I haven't been with the team since that time. The last I was with the team was when I spoke to them right after the game. And so it's hard for me to really give you an honest answer, because when I go speak to them at 3:15 today, I'll be with them the first time since that time. But it's pretty obvious when you see it happen, when you feel it, when you're involved in it, you understand what all the dynamics are. And when things aren't always going the way you want them to, it's the natural tendency to question, well, should we be doing this, or should we be doing this, or what about if we try this, or what if we try this? And we've stayed pretty focused on a few things and saying we want to do a few things well rather than a lot of things marginally, And until we can do a few things well, we're not going to take another step to add something until we do these things well. And we have told our team over and over and over and over and over again that our compete level, our one-on-one intensity, our play with and without the puck, our ability to move the puck, our ability to get to the scoring areas, our ability to create chances, our ability to work into those tougher zones like in front of the nets on both sides, and those sorts of things are the difference between winning and losing. We showed them video of that all week long last week in preparation for the weekend. We didn't do those things Friday. We did all of those things on Saturday. And the results, not so much the score, but the performance results were alarmingly different, right? Same message, different results, because we executed in a different way. I think every single guy in that locker room, without having spoken to him since that time, but I think everybody in that locker room, whether they were dressed or not dressed, saw that and saw the difference, and that should connect those dots if they haven't already. Otherwise, you're not paying attention,
Kind of going back to that stagnant penalty, that's kind of a fine line for a hockey player, I would think. You get in a situation where you have another game the next night, and you want to send a message that, hey, 5-0 isn't going to happen the next night. Where is that line? Where is that line between being aggressive and sending that message versus being undisciplined and taking something that will hurt the team?
Well, it's frustrating at times. He got penalized, the first penalty of the game, which I wasn't a big fan of, and I thought it was, from the vantage point I had, I thought it was a pretty good hit. It was a hard hit, and I thought there was a few of those in the game that got penalized that I was surprised, and apparently that was the standard those guys chose to have in that particular game. Well, you can allow that to get to you, and I didn't have a problem with what he did in that case, and he got penalized, and really that kind of started the game off on the wrong foot, but I didn't think what he did was so wrong. He tried to go make a play. It was a good effort, and it didn't really go our way, and things kind of spiraled after that. But on that last penalty, he was looking for it. In our game, when somebody's looking for it. When somebody's baited into something, and how you respond to it. And he didn't respond in a manner in which we want to respond. We want to make sure that we're in control of our emotions. It's an emotional game. You got to play with emotion, but you can't let your emotions get the best of you. So I'm sure he'll learn. I'm sure he'll learn from the experience of taking the penalty. I'm sure he'll learn from having to sit and watch the next game, out of the lineup. And sometimes that's what we have to do to make sure we get that message across.
Does that also kind of play into, I guess, the opponent as well? I mean, they're a team that excels on the power play, and they want to get guys off the ice, I would think, as well.
Absolutely. I thought, at what point was it in the game that they took two guys off, one from each team? I thought it was, we were baited a little
Early
bit
in
into
the
that
third,
one.
the second night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
first
later,
night.
mid-third.
Yeah. I didn't like the way that shook down, but hey, when your power play's clicking like their power play was, they wanted to get that group on the ice every opportunity they could, which we talked about. The best way to kill kill penalties is not to have any, you know? And yet you want to be aggressive, you want to play aggressive, it's an important part of the game. You have to have a level of physicality, and I think that was, was helpful in the game. And sometimes when you do that, penalties are going to occur, you know? So I get more disturbed by undisciplined play. And it's not just in taking an undisciplined penalty, it's not staying with your game plan, it's deviating. Because this is not a game that one person can go change the game. The only person who can do that is in goal. That's the only person. No one person can go on the ice and get it done themselves. They have to be playing with other guys. Just can't do it in this sport. Basketball, you can do it, you know, but you can't do it in this sport. I'm sure people in basketball would argue it's even hard to do it in basketball. But you have a better chance in basketball than being able to make that big of a difference in this sport. So you got to stay disciplined in all phases of your game.
That said, what about Hildebrand's save in overtime of that game?
It was pretty good. That was an unbelievable save, you know, and that's one of those things, you know, even on our team, you look at our body of work in the course of that game, and I really did think we played a good game, a game that was good enough to win the game. And I'll go back to the first period. The first period, I thought we had a really good period, and yet a minute left to go in the period, we're down 2-1. We're going to go in the locker room, and I'm thinking on the bench, here we play a pretty darn good period, and we're going to go in the locker room down 2-1, you know. And then Max scored, and that was a big boost. Then you have that moment that you're referring to in Hildy's save, playing a pretty good game. That was the only shot on goal they had in overtime. That was a doozy, you know, that was a doozy. But our team right now, we need that. We need good goaltending. You know, maybe 2 years ago and even parts of last year, we needed Hildy to be able to make a lot of big saves. That's not our team anymore. So now he's got to adjust a little bit. He's got to be dialed in, much like Wilcox. Like what I'm impressed with in Wilcox is he comes up with that big save at the right moment when maybe he hasn't even seen a good shot in 8 minutes, you know, and all of a sudden, boom, he makes a really good save. Well, our team is getting better. We're better defensively. We're not giving up the quantity or the number of quality chances that we did maybe in the previous years. Sometimes it's easier for goalies to play in. So Hildy's got to make that adjustment, and he did that night. When we went into the shootout, I was very confident that he was really tracking the puck. He was really tracking the puck. And a big part of that was that save. I have no idea how he stopped that puck. I've seen it on video since. But man, what a save! That was just a great save. I thought that was a terrific hockey game. Really, I thought it was a fun game to watch. I thought there was good energy in the building. I thought it went up and down the ice. You had highlight goals. You had great saves. You had, you know, penalty shots in the shootout. There was a lot of fun stuff to watch that night in that game. I thought that's one of the better games that I've seen in a while. And that save was a big part of it, actually.
Call ESPN.
Just think,
Call ESPN.
Yeah.
just think how you'd felt if that puck goes in, and all the great work and all the good positives.
I know how I would have felt. I'd have felt like I felt Friday night.
Wasn't such a great game if you lost it.
No.
Just it.
When you talked about their power play, what was it about their power play that made them so successful over the weekend? Was it their power play, or did you guys just not have the best two games? You know, were you guys just not ready for it, or?
No, I think we were ready for it. I'm going to give them virtually all the credit. They have a lot of skill, and more than skill is they have a lot of poise. They have a lot of poise. They have the ability to find the right guy at the right time. They know when to move the puck quickly, when to hold on to it. They know when to shoot it. They got a lot of movement. It's very difficult to key on one or even two guys. You know, so they have depth. They're dangerous. They're dangerous on their rush. They're dangerous in the zone. So I give them tons of credit. We did a poor job, and a big reason we did a poor job is because they're real good at it. So between now and the next time we play them, we've got to be able to improve that or take no penalties, because what were they? They're like 5 for 7 or 5 for 9 or something. Yeah, that's just too good. That's not good enough from our end, but they were impressive.
Have you had a chance to look at Clarkson and find out what kind of team they are, what style they play?
Just a little bit. Haven't had enough chance to watch much. I've watched a little bit. The little that I've seen is they're a real hard-working team. Looks like they're probably a pretty physical team, maybe one of the more physical teams we'll have played to this point. I have lots of regard and respect for Casey Jones.
So you know him.
Yeah, I know him just from when I was in the CCHA, and he was an associate head coach at Ohio State. I give him a lot of credit for those teams that had lots of success there. They were getting to the NCAA tournament. They got to the Frozen Four that year, and I thought he did a really good job. I thought he made a real impact. So they'll be very well coached and very well organized. They'll play, I think, with lots of energy and emotion. And but that's the extent that I know of their team right now. And I know their league record is pretty good.
Coming off a win at St. Lawrence, which isn't easy.
Right. So they'll be a good team to finish the first half for us before we head into break and then the GLI.